Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Plant-Based Quick Cooking Show. I'm Karen, coming to you every week from the Center for Plant-Based Living right here in St. Louis, Missouri. And it's the end of summer, and people keep asking me for summer squash recipes because they keep getting more and more and more off of their vines at home. So they don't want soup recipes. People don't want soup recipes because they're sick and tired of chopping them up and throwing them in broth. So let's make fritters, okay? This is a super easy recipe because every week it's 7 ingredients or less. So you'll be able to whip these up 1, 2, 3, no problem. All right, put your skillet on a high heat. You know the drill. We're going to do a dry saute, which means no oil. And if we use any liquid at all, it's going to be just a little bit of water or vegetable broth to deglaze. Okay, we're going to bring our heat way up. And then I'm going to add in 1 full sweet yellow onion. You can use white onion if you'd like, that's fine. Whatever you have around. Shallots would also be nice in here. If you used a shallot, I would say probably 2 large shallots. And just chop them up pretty well. About the same size so they all cook around at the same time or at the same rate. All right, so those are going to get going. And then what I'm going to do over here is grab my zucchini. You could also do yellow squash if you have an abundance of yellow squash. That works just as good as zucchini. I already have about a cup here. Now what I've done is I've grated 4 or 5 zucchinis because I'm going to make probably a lot of these later on. Or just freeze them. So what you want to do is take your grated zucchini, and you can either grab a box cutter or a box grater and use the largest holes and just grate. You do not need to peel it. Or you can use the shredding blade on your food processor, which is what I did. So take a clean kitchen towel, and I added a few pinches of salt to this also, and that really helps pull the water out. And there's a lot, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a nice pool of water in the bottom of this bowl that I did not add, just coming out of the zucchini. Now you're going to grab about 2 large handfuls, which is going to be about a cup. We're looking ultimately for 2 cups of squash, 2 cups of zucchini or yellow squash. Put them in your towel. And actually, you know what? I'll go over this one. You will see how much water, and this is just 2 handfuls of that grated zucchini. So much water comes out. Really squish it, really hard. Twist. That's a lot. I'm going to give this a nice turn. And because plants have so much water in them, they're going to start to release that moisture really soon, and you're going to get that nice glisten on your onions, and also help them glide around the surface of your pan as well. So my heat's at hot. I'm going to pull it down to a medium high temperature and let it keep cooking. And I'm going to keep squeezing. Oh, there's probably a half a cup of water in there. Maybe even 3/4. Now what we could do is we could add a little bit of water to our pan if we needed to glaze, or we could even just use this water straight out of the vegetable. Okay, we are pretty well dry, and you'll see that's all we have. I know, so zucchini, obviously is mostly water. Just put that into our bowl. And we have roughly 2 cups in there now that have been squeezed. Okay. And I'll just keep this water around. And we have a little bit of browning on the bottom of our pan. Nothing's really sticking, but a little bit of browning. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to use this water and deglaze. And that water will evaporate off. And what I've done is I've pulled the flavors that have browned the bottom of the pan and pulled them up into the onions to give them even more flavor. Now, if you want to do kind of a quick caramelization, don't you love caramelized onions? I do. Add some salt to your onions, and that will further pull out any moisture and really condensing those sugars, giving us that nice caramelization that we like. So these will keep going for a few more minutes because we want to get as much water out as possible, again, to condense the sugars, and we really don't want to, you don't want your mixture to be too watery. It won't hold together. Okay, now over here I have in this bowl 1 14-ounce can of chickpeas that I have mashed. When I open up a can of chickpeas, I always drain and rinse them so there's no added salts or whatever else was in that can that is not on the beans. And I've mashed most of the beans. You can do this in the food processor if you want, or you can just use a potato masher. A fork works fine too. Okay, yeah, these are getting nice and wilty, little golden. That's what I'm looking for. All right, now I also have a flax egg. We want these things to stick together, right? So when you're making burgers or like meatballs or roasts or fritters, you need plenty of binders. And what we're using today as our binders is the chickpea, because those are really dense, and once you mash them, they become a really nice binder. We're also going to use a little bit of chickpea flour, which is a binder. And then we're also using, instead of eggs, because I don't use eggs in my cooking or baking, we're using a flax egg, actually 1.5. So this is 1.5 tablespoons of ground flax, make sure it's ground, and 1/4 cup of water. And then just mix it all up and it becomes very thick, gelatinous, and this will really help those fritters stick together, bind together. Okay, so we've got a little bit more browning. I'm going to add some more of that liquid. Deglaze a little bit more. Oh my gosh, this is delicious. Okay, now, oh yeah, look at that. Look, they're nice and brown. Come on, yum. Now I have three cloves of garlic here that I've pressed with the blade of my knife and then chopped up. And then once you start to smell that garlic, once that becomes fragrant, then you need to either stop cooking it or add in the next ingredient, whatever your recipe calls for. And this is all that we're sauteing today. So I am going to take this off the heat. You know what? I'm going to switch this recipe up. Mid video, I'm going to switch this video up, or switch this recipe up. I'm adding our zucchini, because I thought, that'll probably take out more of the water. You really can't squeeze all of it out, but if we want to get as much out as possible, let's put it over some heat and let's cook it out. So I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to cook this probably for another 3 or 4 minutes. Really let those flavors get to know each other, develop, and get that water out of there. Okay, I'm going to keep at this for just a few more minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll put the rest of the recipe together. All right, it's been about 5 minutes, and there is no more liquid being let out of these plants. So the zucchini, the garlic, and the onion are all as dry as they can be. Okay, I am going to add our mixture into our bowl with the mashed up chickpeas, and it's going to be hot. put this over here. Mix it all up. You can see that steam. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to add in our flax egg, our big binder. Come on. Okay. And I've already added a little bit of salt when it was cooking. I'll go ahead and add in some freshly ground pepper. And we're going to add our chickpea flour to this as well. I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup to begin, because I think that's a conservative amount. If I need any more, I can certainly add it. You always want to be conservative when you're building recipes. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to glove up, because I'm going to get in there with my hands. There is no instrument, tool, kitchen gadget that I have found that works as well as your hands when you are mixing up burgers and things like that. So it is going to be hot. You might want to wait a minute or so, let that cool down. But we're in it. We're in it. We're going to get it done. Yeah, this is nice. This is good. It's really coming together. Want to make sure you get that flax egg all through there. And really just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Okay, that's pretty thick. I think we're getting there. I think I'm going to add in just another 1/4 of a cup. And so that'll be a full cup of chickpea flour. And yes, this is a gluten-free recipe. Okay. Mix, mix, mix. Now, when you're finished with this, when you have everything, when you have all that flour really mixed in and you have everything mixed up really well, because it's hot, it may feel a little gummy. It's okay, don't worry about it. What we're going to do then is we're going to put it into the refrigerator for at least an hour, and you can even leave it there overnight. The temperature change really helps the little fritters stick together. That temperature change just does wonders. Okay, so now that you're pretty well mixed up there, the final ingredient, fresh dill. I know. So fresh, just kind of a burst of flavor. And then just work that all the way in there. Oh, it's so fragrant. It's great. Okay. Now, I am going to throw this in the fridge just for an hour, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it up. All right, just got our mixture out of the refrigerator. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes. It's nice and cool, and we're just going to take about a golf ball, in between a golf ball and a softball size of mixture. And it's sticking together really, really well. So just roll it in your hands, smush it just a little bit, and place it on a parchment paper lined pan. We have our oven preheated at 375, and I'm going to give these little guys about 25 minutes in there, and we'll see where we are. I'll patty these up, and I'll see you in a little bit. Our fritters are ready. The shop smells incredible, and I cannot wait to dig in. They're perfect. They're staying together intact. They're not falling apart. They're not too mushy. They're perfect. And then remember the tzatziki that we made last week? Bring it out. We're using it. Scoop a little bit right there on the plate. Grab your fork, and I am going to dig in. Okay, that's another episode of the Plant-Based Quick Cooking Show. Thanks for joining me. All recipes are 7 ingredients or less for the beginner or for somebody who just needs a reboot and a reminder. We have classes on the calendar. Come join us in the shop or virtually. And if you're making this, please tag me on Instagram or Facebook, because I'd love to see how you did it. Take good care. I'll see you next week. So good.